Dragon's Will, Chapter 135. The soil we leave behind. The blinding column of white energy slowly dissolved, leaving behind a heavy, crackling silence that hung over the ruined arena. Out of the lingering mist stepped the rebel conqueror. She was no longer just Chishori. In this moment, she was Xia. Her awakening was both breathtaking and terrifying. A single, majestic, angelic wing unfurled from her shoulder, trailing threads of divine white light. She wore shimmering robes that fell loosely to her bare feet, resting gently against the scorched earth. Her hair rolled down her back in long, radiant gold, framing long, pointed elven ears. But it was her face that froze the blood in the air. Her eyes were completely devoid of pupils, burning with pure white divine light, and her lips parted slightly to reveal sharp, vampiric fangs. Sparks of white electricity danced wildly around her skin, humming with the sound of a roaring tempest. She looked down at the fallen, bleeding form of the human she loved, then slowly raised her white-hot gaze to the conqueror before her. Her voice echoed, not from her throat, but like thunder reverberating through the sky itself. "You will pay for hurting Ryu." Ishori stood frozen for a fraction of a second, caught off guard by the sheer density of energy radiating from her frame. But as quickly as the shock arrived, it melted into a dark, mocking laugh. "I can't believe this." Ishori sneered, shaking his head with cruel amusement. "Seriously? That pathetic human will bleed out in a matter of minutes, and you will be left out here, completely alone." "I was always alone," Xia replied, her voice dangerously calm. Ishori gesticulated wildly, his face twisting in disgust. "Is this your idea of gratitude toward Lord Denka? Without him, you wouldn't even exist. It is written in your very genes, Chishori." "I do not care what is written in my genes," Xia said, taking a slow step forward. White lightning arced beneath her heels. "I will protect the innocent, and I will never forgive you for what you have done to these people." Ishori spit on the ground, his expression darkening into sheer malice. "Ah, you hypocrite. What about the dozens of worlds we destroyed together? You were right beside us." Xia offered no reply. Her pupilless white eyes locked onto him with absolute venom. Ishori smirked, spreading his arms wide. "Why so upset, Chishori? Let's play." Before the final word could fully leave his mouth, Xia vanished. The air detonated where she had been standing. She reappeared instantly in front of Ishori, driving a heavy fist toward his skull. Ishori ducked by a hair's breadth, but before he could register her speed, Xia's hand shot out, clamping around his demonic wing with a grip like iron. With terrifying physical strength, she hoisted the heavy conqueror off his feet and spun him like a cyclone, gathering momentum until the wind roared around them. "This isn't fair," Ishori roared, his vision blurring wildly. Xia released her grip, hurling Ishori straight through the massive stone perimeter of the arena. The impact shattered the ancient structure, launching him hundreds of meters through the air, until he crashed hard into the desolate, volcanic wasteland outside. Flying high above the crumbling arena walls, Xia locked her sights on the rising cloud of ash. She folded her wing and dove from the heavens like a falling star. Ishori scrambled to his feet, wiping black soot from his teeth. Seeing her descending upon him, he crossed his hands, his claws glowing with lethal dark energy. Techie, laser claw. A grid of searing crimson light sliced through the atmosphere, hurtling directly toward her. "No, you don't," Xia whispered mid-fall. "Techie, mirror shield." A pristine, glowing barrier of holy light materialized in front of her. Ishori's razor-sharp lasers slammed into the shield's surface, refracturing instantly, and redirected straight back at their creator with doubled velocity. "You bitch!" Ishori screamed, throwing his body sideways. He barely dodged his own reflected attack. The beam sliced deep, jagged trenches into the earth, opening underground fissures that spewed boiling magma high into the sky. As Ishori leapt clear of the rising lava, Xia blinked behind him in a flash of divine displacement, driving a brutal boot into his lower back. The impact launched him upward, breaking the cloud layer, into the high atmosphere. High above the clouds, The two conquerors collided in a storm of hand-to-hand combat. Ch135 slammed a vicious barrage of punches into Ishori's ribs and jaw, forcing him backward, but the seasoned warrior managed to jam a desperate, heavy boot into her midsection to create distance. Driven by pure, unfiltered rage, Ch135 lunged through the gap. Her elongated, razor-sharp claws slashed across Ishori's face, severing his right eye in a shower of dark crimson. Ishori reeled back, clutching his face as blood pooled between his fingers. "You bitch!" Techie, laser rain. Beams of destruction shot from all 10 of Ishori's fingertips, raining down in an inescapable barrage. The lasers impaled Ch135's angelic wing, tearing clean through her shoulders and chest. Ch135 threw her head back, screaming in raw agony, a sound that echoed across the entire continent like a tearing sky. Taking advantage of her paralysis, Ishori swooped in, driving a brutal downward kick into her sternum. Ch135 shot toward the earth like a meteor, crashing into the volcanic dirt and leaving a massive, smoking crater. Ishori descended slowly, hovering at the edge of the pit. He stepped closer, staring down at her battered, bleeding form with a triumphant grin. "Seems you aren't as tough as you claim to be," Ishori panted, raising his hand and pointing his fingertips directly at her forehead. Denka sends his greetings. Techie. Before the technique could manifest, Ch135's eyes snapped open. In a fraction of a millisecond, her right arm surged with a blinding, sun-like white radiance. Before Ishori's brain could even process the movement, Ch135 moved. Ch135's hand drove clean through Ishori's chest, bursting out from his spine. Ishori froze solid, his eyes wide with disbelief. A dense wave of blood sprayed from his mouth and stomach. Slowly, deliberately, Ch135 pulled her dripping arm out of his body. For a single second, her intense rage softened, replaced by a heavy, melancholic sorrow as she looked at her former comrade. "I'm sorry," she whispered softly. Her expression hardened back into absolute resolve. She pressed both glowing palms against his chest. Techie, shining attack. No! A catastrophic wave of pure, divine energy erupted from her hands. The light consumed Ishori entirely, vaporizing his flesh, armor, and soul down to the atomic level until nothing remained. Silence returned to the wasteland. Ch135 dropped to her knees in the dirt, gasping heavily for air. "Ryu, I have to." She tried to unfurl her wing to fly up in the air, but the lacerations were too severe. The divine energy was fading fast. Damn it, I need time to regenerate. Well, that was close. Ch135 whipped her head around in alarm. Walking out from the dust of the destroyed arena wall was Juro. His forehead was bruised and trickling blood, but he calmly adjusted the brim of his cowboy hat, pulling an unlit cigar from his coat pocket. "You!" Ch135 gasped, her vision swaying. "I thought you died." "Almost did," Juro replied, flicking a match to light his cigar. "While you two were tearing up the stratosphere, I checked the arena and picked up what you blasted out of Fuma's hand." In his left grip was the legendary Mituki blade. Shia's eyes widened with caution, her instincts flaring. Juro immediately raised a hand, stepping back. "Easy there, kid. I know this blade suppresses your kind, so I'll keep my distance." Medical ships are already inbound. Ch135 looked up toward the clouds. Through the smoke, a fleet of heavy, armored medical airships was descending over the battlefield. "Fuma and Age will make it," Juro said quietly, blowing out a long trail of blue smoke. "And yes, Ryu will too." Hearing those words, Ch135 let out a long, trembling breath. The divine white light receded from her body. Her angelic wing, fangs, pupilless gaze, and holy robes dissolved away, leaving her in her natural form, long golden hair resting over soft blue eyes. She collapsed onto her hands and knees against the scorched, volcanic ground. "Denka kept me. For another reason," Ch135 murmured, her forehead resting near the dirt. "Whenever we conquerors erased life on a planet, I was used to restore its ecosystem, so Denka could sell the land for a profit." Juro paused, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Rebuild whole worlds? I will restore this land," Shia said, her voice filled with quiet determination. Daku caused this destruction long ago, but people can change. Shia pressed her bare palms deep into the dark ash, closing her eyes. Teki, Kaifuku. A massive, warm wave of emerald and white light rippled outward from her hands. Across the entire air kingdom, the earth trembled gently. The boiling lava receded deep into the mantle, sealing the fissures. The jagged, toxic ground softened, turning rich and dark as vibrant green grass erupted across the barren hills. The sulfurous smoke cleared into fresh, crisp mountain air, and active volcanoes went quiet as forests bloomed around their bases. Inside the descending airships, soldiers and medics abandoned their stations to stare out the portholes in complete awe. "Are you seeing this?" a medic breathed, pressing his hands against the glass. "The wasteland. It's blooming." Below, Shia finished the technique and collapsed flat onto her stomach, gasping desperately for air as her skin turned pale. Juro walked over, taking a slow drag from his cigar as he looked down at the newborn landscape. With profound respect. "Well done. You truly are a savior now, but that came at a cost, didn't it?" "My power," Shia whispered, her strength entirely spent. "It will be gone for months. Or longer. It drains the user's life energy." "Sounds like the Yasu healers," Juro noted, looking off into the distance. "They have a technique. Just like that. Dangerous stuff." "Iyasu?" Shia breathed softly. "Ah, yes. Denka's realm." Jiro gestured toward the landing airships. "Medics are securing Fuma and Age right now. We should join them." Out of nowhere, a tiny, jet-black dart struck Jiro clean in the side of the neck. Shia's eyes widened in horror. "What?" Jiro's eyes rolled back as the neural toxin hit his bloodstream instantly. He collapsed onto the fresh grass, completely unconscious before he hit the ground. Before Shia could force her paralyzed body to move, a shadow dropped silently from the sky. A black-robed figure landed beside Jiro, slamming a heavy energy net over the cowboy's body. In one fluid, practiced motion, the stranger hoisted Jiro over his shoulder and leapt onto a strange, floating vehicle, a wheelless mechanical beast that roared to life with jet fuel flames erupting from its rear exhaust. "Stop," Shia cried out, reaching a trembling hand forward, but her body betrayed her, collapsing back into the grass. The robed figure paused for a fraction of a second, looking back at the weakened conqueror with cold, unreadable silence. Then, he revved the engine, unleashed a thick plume of black smoke, and rocketed into the horizon, vanishing into the sky with Juro as his captive.